I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
The harder I want to hit you.
I'm happy because of being here today. Fuck you.
Come on, you want me to drive? You're supposed to be suicidal, remember? I'll
Anybody
drive.
a drive?
Get in the car.
Fucking shit. Fuck me in the fucking ass. Fuck you, you fucking stupid cunt.
Let me put you out of my misery. This is just the beginning. So, one thing I will say first before we get started on this review. May Ray Stevenson rest in peace, who had passed on 2.5 years ago in 2023, and was one of the actors to play this guy before this character joined Netflix. And well, a marvel today. But yeah, hey everyone, it's Don G. Corleone here, and I'm here with a brand new movie review. And this movie review is going to be for none other than 2008's Punisher Warzone, which is directed by Lexi Alexander. And was, well, the next attempt at adapting the character. So, what is the plot of Punisher Warzone? So, hell-bent on punishing the gangsters responsible for the death of his family and countless others, Frank Castle finds himself on a violent path of destruction, waging a one-man war against a despicable crime family led by a man known as Jigsaw. No, not John Kramer from the Saw movies. A different Jigsaw, Billy Russo. That Jigsaw, who's actually a villain in the comics. So, as for my reaction, now look, it's not as good as the 2004 film, or even the Netflix series. But, when it comes to which one I prefer the violence in of the two movies, I would say this one right here does the better job at getting the brutality of the character a bit more. I feel when it comes to the two movies, this one is more for the story lovers, this one is more for the gore lovers. Either way, it's damn underrated, and I think it's still a good popcorn flick that, honestly, I wish did not bomb, and I wish got more attention. So pretty much, like, this film came out around the time when films like Iron Man and The Dark Knight were changing the comic book film genre and rejuvenating it a little more. But how was it made? So, development of a follow-up to The Punisher began 2 months before its release. Initially, this was going to be a sequel, with Thomas Jane coming back in the role. But Thomas Jane, and Jonathan were not liking the scripts they got from Lionsgate or Marvel, so they backed out. And so, in 2006, so they decided to reboot it again, and this time Ray Stevenson would be his replacement. Then filming began in October 2007 in Montreal, Canada, and well, yeah, this film suffered another bad production. Originally, I think it was heard that there was times when Lexi Alexander would not be on set for some of the directing and more other hell and drama and stuff. Like, this film suffered bad production problems. You could tell, like, originally this was supposed to be released in September 2008, but Lionsgate Club probably decided at the last minute, decided not to, and just put it in December 2008 during the worst fucking time. You had already had films like Twilight, Day the Earth Stood Still, Four Christmases, Yes Man. December was crowded. Why couldn't you just leave it September 2008? Could have just left it there. But no, let's be so smart and release this at the worst fucking time. Like, Lionsgate and Marvel shot themselves in the foot doing that. There's lots of times you could tell they clearly likely had no hope for this project, sadly, and so it did not do well. It was one of their worst bombs, and it bombed so bad that Lionsgate lost the rights to the Punisher and they went back to Marvel, and he would never appear again until Daredevil series and his own spin-off series. But yeah, it released in North America on December 5th, 2008, but it was releasing came by Sony Pictures releasing in February 2009 to negative reviews, did only make a bad $10 million worldwide on a $35 million budget. Although, the film has gotten a bit of a cult following over the years, especially with the Marvel we have today. So this was the final Punisher film to be produced by an outside studio because the rights went back to Marvel, and it got rebooted in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and John Bernthal would become the new permanent Punisher, starting in Daredevil, and his own spin-off series, and the first season of Daredevil Born Again, and is going to be coming back in Spider-Man Brand New Day. And that's going to be his first feature film appearance since this movie. And though the late Ray Stevenson would go on to reprise his role in the Superhero Squad show. Alright, so here are the good qualities in the story of Punisher Warzone. Okay, so the first thing people say, yeah, it's not as good as 2004 film, because there are fans of 2004 film. Now, the difference is you kind of have to watch both movies and they're not really connect to each other. They're two different movies. This one is a reboot attempt, and it shows the more brutal, carefree Punisher that the comic book fans remembered. The first one kind of shows the more emotional character development side. Warzone kind of steps away from the death of his family a little. It features a few brief little glimpses and flashbacks of that, and focuses on other aspects of the Punisher. And Ray Stevenson is also still a good Punisher. I mean, Thomas Jane and Don Bernthal are still my favorite ones, but Ray Stevenson, I would say, is in third place. This Punisher is mean, he's rough looking, he has a perfect attitude. If you're literally expecting an uplifting MCU movie like today, or a gritty ground Christopher Nolan Dark Knight style film, no. That's not what you're going to get. Not because it's none of those movies. The Punisher is not a character who is really going to fit much like other franchises well. They're going to put him in Spider-Man Brand New Day. And it seems like they'll actually find a way to make him fit from the trailer. But it's still a comic movie for sure, that is. The characters are actually still over the top, the action is unrealistic. Its source material, though, is from a nihilistic series that's put out by Marvel. And the key word there being brutal because the violence is graphic. It's definitely kind of got the little Tarantino-style violence where it's taken to an extreme. It goes from shocking to funny where you see bad guys getting impaled, blown up, delimbed, glass shredded. The main bad guy has his face crushed by a single punch. No, not the main bad guy. The main bad guy has his face crushed by glass. One guy gets his face crushed by a single punch. Actually, quite a few people do. Or get their faces blasted off. So yeah, may not be a 100% great masterpiece movie, but this is a movie that's just still fun to watch. The pace is perfect. It's only 107 minutes long. The acting is amazing, and it's well directed and shot. To me, in my eyes, it's still had production problems, but I think some of the more action scenes are well directed and shot well. So at least you could tell at least they knew what they were doing. They added the gore in. Right there. So how do we start off? So we know of the Punisher, Frank Castle lost his family to mob violence. He spent the last 5 years as a vigilante called the Punisher. And then, of course, we get a great opening scene. And I really like this opening scene when he goes to this party that's hosted by local Don Gaetano Caesar and literally kills and assassinates the guests. When they're at this dinner, the lights go down. And then, of course, when the lights come back on, you see the Punisher there. And he puts his torch down, decapitates a few of the members. And Caesar's captain, Billy Rossotti, and his encouraged Nikki Dante escape to this recycling plant hideout, and Detectives Martin Soap and Saffioti, who are staking out the party, inform Castle of this, so he goes to the hideout, and after a brief fight with Billy, he throws Billy to this glass crushing machine, and just pretty much when Billy's there, he's fuck you, Castle, and Frank or the Punisher's just with like a smug expression just turns on the machine, and he's pretty much crushed by all the glass, and it leaves him hideously disfigured. And unfortunately, because he can't have his looks restored, he refers to himself as Jigsaw because the stitches on his face actually resemble puzzle pieces. Now, some people are obviously confusing Jigsaw because that's John Kramer's name in Saw. But no, Jigsaw is actually a Punisher villain in the comics, guys. That's actually Billy's name once he gets those scars on his face. But then Castle accidentally kills Nikki, but then he discovers Donatelli was actually an undercover FBI agent. And that's when he realizes he fucked up. And then there's one other agent who's a partner of the deceased agent. He joins the Punisher task force, partnering to help bring the Punisher to justice. And so after like Jigsaw kills his doctor, he pretty much leaves his two other remaining henchmen, and they go to this asylum, and they go and break out his brother named, Looney Bin Jim, who is cannibalistic and deranged, and is played by Doug Hutchinson. Yeah. That POS creep. That piece of shit creep. You want to know why I say that? I was dreading when I was having to mention this character and the actor who plays him. Let's just say when Doug Hudson was in his 50s, he married a fucking 16-year-old girl. And this got him so much backlash. And it's not unreasonable why. And now that I think about it, I think so far the one bad quality I do have, I'll mention later, are the villains with this film. But more on that later. So, what I do enjoy, though, on the more positive side, like how he mercilessly just crushes those who come after him in this movie, but he has a heart for those that can't protect themselves, and has a heart for his allies. And he pretty much become right there, and of course, this is based on a comic book character. A character that in the Marvel Universe would, he did fight the Hulk a few appearances, he did fight Spidey a few appearances, so... guys, so you're wondering, why is this not realistic? The comics weren't realistic either. Okay? The Punisher is a brutal character, and he's had over-the-top stories. He's fought those characters I mentioned, alright? He goes through a lot of changes, too. In the beginning, he was a lot more like the one portrayed by Thomas Jane, although not by, so down to violent or gruesome, though, but he still has a bit of humanity left in here. What Ray also portrays in this film with the Dark agent he accidentally kills as well. There's times, whenever he's at the grave, Frank stops by his family's grave, and you can still see the emotion in his eyes. He still has a bit of Frank Castle left in him. At that point, he kind of literally sees, the remorse in his face with how far he's kind of gone. Or when he's observing the undercover agent's daughter at school, and kind of, reminiscing the family life he never had. Those are some pretty well acted moments that the late Ray Stevenson portrayed in this movie. I really like those brief little bits, especially some of the bits he has with the daughter. Whenever he stops by to drop off that money at the family's house, and pretty much expresses sorry for their loss and for what he did by accident. And he sees the daughter making a few art by the door of the house. Of course, it's also pretty much where he's kind of drawn for his more dark side as well. And of course, that's pretty much, a side that also does get portrayed by Lexi Alexander. Frank in this film is still raw, he's uncontrollable, he's lethal, and he's without mercy when he's the Punisher. But that is what the Punisher is also sometimes known for. There's no second chance with him. There's only one Punisher, and that's a capital one for him. This movie, though, it's definitely a little bit shorter than the 2004 film. It's got a good amount of gratuitous gore. It's got some major set pieces. The Punisher's hideout in the subway trains is actually very unique. It looks very terrific. Right there, some of the hideouts the villains have are also terrific. The violence, though, like, often jumps from either comic tone to real tone. Like, in the opening scene, it has real tone. Like, there's some, in some of the more later bits throughout the rest of the film, it has more comic tone. But it keeps the surreal ultra violence of the original Punisher tales. Many of them is helped by a larger than life cast of baddies that are often one of the more lesser known problems. And so, Frank Castle feels distraught and regret over killing the agents. And this is the stuff, like, this is the stuff that Ray Stevenson captures very well. You see the regret in his face. You see the remorse in his eyes during the time he's at the grave, you know? He's also, like, when he's, like, seeing that bit, he's kind of remembering the time he lost his family when he became the Punisher. And he attempts to try to make amends with the agent's widow and daughter. And he considers retiring, and his armor, Micro, who's played by Wayne Knight, who I definitely enjoy as an actor, and, you know, I actually thought he was actually cast well as Micro, and that I wish Micro had a few more scenes in the film. Like, that's one of the things. You have Wayne Knight playing Micro, aka from Jurassic Park, and he's, like, only in the movie for, like, I think 4 scenes. Other than that, you don't really see him a lot. Like, that's the thing. Like, I feel you could have a bit more scenes of him being an ally with the Punisher, and he's the one that makes him reconsider after time that Jigsaw's going to go after Donatelli's family as payback for wrecking his face. And so Frank agrees that he'll do it, and then he's done being the Punisher for good after that. So, Jigsaw, Looney Bin Jim, and the 2 other henchmen they have left, they pretty much set up their hideout, they set up their revenge on Castle, and then you got this over-the-top bit where Looney Bin Jim smashes or bangs himself into mirrors just so Billy will not have to look at his face again. And that's a scene I did not like. And then after that, but you do get a funny scene where some of these other, like, little hipster poser people that were associated with Jigsaw are jumping roof to roof. And at one point, when one of them's about to do one, Frank actually shoots a rocket launcher in, like, the middle of one's jump, and it immediately shoots that guy right there, and it takes care of the posers as well. And so that's definitely one of the funniest Marvel kills out there. Right there, like, it really does kind of give the feel of an ad for a new shoes gone horribly wrong, with the way that rocket just enters the shot. And so our 4 main baddies, they go into Donatelli's house, they hold the family hostage, and then you get the rocket launcher bits, and then he tracks down one of the associates, shoots one of them with the rocket launcher, and then executes the rest after getting the information. But then these 2 cops apprehend him. One thing about one of these cops is that there's this one cop character that serves as kind of the comic relief, who's kind of like spends the whole film kind of like idolizing and being obsessed with the Punisher and stuff, and kind of like being a big fan of the Punisher. And so, yeah, like, I will admit, I kind of do like this comic relief character as well. And, you know, I kind of wish we saw a few more scenes of him and that comic relief character also kind of teaming up. And so, Castle pretty much tells him that Jigsaw went after the family, and so Bunyansky, the one who's looking after the family, he sends a police car to check the residence because he's too busy trying to turn Castle in, but the patrol car fails to respond because Looney Bin Jim kills the 2 cops. And so Bunyansky is forced to go to the house, and Billy's 2 other henchmen capture him. Then, Castle convinces Soap to free him. Is like, oh, come on, and pretty much frees Castle, who goes inside and rescues the family and kills the 2 remaining henchmen. While Bunyansky is like, it's like when Bunyansky is trying to arrest one of them, and Frank Castle just casually just shoots one of them, blows off the face, and Bunyansky's like, God damn it, Castle, and just walks away holding the daughter, like, just like that. And so Bunyansky arrests Jigsaw and Looney Bin Jim after a gunfight. The music in this film is also very good. It's also dark, moody, and it's presented what the Punisher stands for. Like, the rock or metal does kick in from time to time for the soundtrack. Like, the action, it fits the action scenes that are really good. They're pretty well spaced out. it allows you to kind of breathe more easily. And then the action starts. Like, the action is amazing. It's chaotic. It's brutal. It's gory. They cut some here and there in the editing, but the subject material to capture here is still pretty mature, like it should be. Not trying to be all overly silly or crack a joke during the fights. Like, hey, we need to stop and make this comedy bit during a fight scene. No, it's not that kind. Some of the gore does look a little fake, but at the same time, it at least does make sense for the gore to be a little fake. Like, Punisher Warzone still has plenty of drama as well. Like, so the bits like with Ray, like with Ray Stevenson reliving the time he lost his family, or the bit with him bonding with the undercover agent's daughter, or some of the bits where he's considering retiring. Like, you really feel what he feels, and when you look in those dark eyes, pretty much like it actually does feel pretty tear-felt with this performance here. I feel like that's one of the things a lot of people seem to undermine with the late Ray Stevenson's performance of the character, is that he still captured like some of the emotion that Frank was going through in those bits. Like, I feel like that stuff is just less focused. That's kind of the problem. Like, it's just really just kind of like, it's not really just trying to be also a superhero movie. It's really kind of also somewhat of a low-budget action vigilante movie, but a vigilante killing criminals in gruesome ways. And the action, like, feels well-directed. In fact, now I think about it, what I should have mentioned, this movie actually feels like it really does kind of feel the equivalent of an 80s or 90s movie. Think of a Marvel film like this were made in the 80s or 90s, back if they were well-directed back then. It would kind of feel a lot like the tone of this. You got a few decent lines. It never drags out or stalls, and it's definitely well shot. It's well paced. Like, the tone's the right balance with tongue-in-cheek humor and dark tone. The action is very tight. It's like there's a grasp of what the main character is going to be and trying to be. But so after Jigsaw and Looney Bin Jim were arrested, they managed to bargain with the FBI for their release by giving up Christo Balat, who's smuggling this weapon for rob terrorists in New York, and so they're granted immunity. And the US $12 million Balat was paying to use Jigsaw's port and this file micro. So pretty much in the end, they're able to get out, and they set out to build their army with these other criminals that the Punisher had messed with or took from them. They kidnap Micro and they kill his mother. And then, of course, meanwhile, like, while pretty much the undercover family is living with Castle in his hideout, he's pretty much making them food, and he's kind of letting the daughter explore a bit. And I did like some of these bits right here as well. And, this one from Micro, like, comes in and, like, Frank obviously make sure he doesn't have any weapons before entering. And of course, and meanwhile as well, the whole two baddies are pretty much kicking off their plans. They also pretty much take the family hostage again. And Louis Bin Jim injures Micro's associate that I was talking about. That Castle had pretty much, like, Castle left during that time to actually make sure they were safe. But when Castle gets back to his hideout, he sees that Carlos is wounded and sees he's not going to make it. And pretty much after Carlos asks not to let him die like this, like, for Punisher is pretty much like, if there's a hell, I make sure you don't go to it. And he pretty much kills Carlos in an act of mercy. So yeah, you can see the Punisher still does, in this version, still does have some mercy for some of his foes. And so pretty much after Jigsaw and Looney Bin Jim recruit their army of gangsters that also want to go after the Punisher, Jigsaw then sets up his new hideout in the abandoned Bradstreet Hotel and puts together the army that they recruited. So Castle enlists the help of Budiansky that informs Christo's father about Jigsaw's location. And pretty much so, Tiburo's enforcers start a shootout in the lobby, which affords Castle distraction. This is pretty much where our final act is kind of starting to kick in, where after the first act where you see Frank, like, having a great opening scene as the Punisher, then accidentally killing an agent, and then pretty much seeing the agent being mourned at his grave by his family members, and then he's remembering the time he lost his family members, and kind of starting to contemplate if life as a Punisher is really worth it. That's what I feel captures. Like, there, you kind of see, like, the remorse in his eyes and see how far he's kind of gone, and wonder if he should really stay in this life, and kind of wants to contemplate retiring as a Punisher. But he changes his mind for one last gig. After Micro convinces him that obviously, like, the person he messed with is going to be going after revenge on his family and realizes his time as a Punisher is not done yet. So he decides to protect them and to get rid of Jigsaw, and then he'll retire. The plot does feel a little thin, I can admit that, but the movie still knows what it wants to be. It's not trying to juggle a whole bunch of plots at once. And the central plot isn't part of the deal, so plots can cease. Like, the main character is uncharismatic. That's part of who the Punisher is. It has to be that way for the character to be who he is. Like, there's no... And the Punisher doesn't act all sorry whenever he dispatches bad guys. There's no apology for the bloody aftermath being shown right here. It's a great combination, because remember, back then, there were Marvel films that actually weren't afraid to take their R-rated characters seriously. Right there. But nowadays, like, unless it's like someone like Deadpool, it's hard. The only exception is Deadpool nowadays. Sadly. Like, the Netflix show sadly didn't last. They brought back Disney continued Daredevil with a different kind of spin-off that I don't care to watch. Or either whenever they had a much more superior version back then, they would often mess with it themselves and make theatrical cuts that didn't do well, so sadly the films didn't get noticed. No, this movie does not have a director's cut. Right there, like... Now, though, this movie is still enjoyable and fun, and the dark, brooding pathos of the Punisher is actually also does perfectly well a film noir style of the movie, while still having its over-the-top moments. And the opening fight scene is a great kick-ass way to kick off the movie. It's the indicator that the film is on the right track. Like, the Punisher punishes, he has no remorse or hesitation, or especially on those that need punishing. And now, it does kind of putter towards the end, but it tries to tie up all the threads at starting and beginning and a kind of linear finish. Like, there's no twist or style up until the last 10 minutes, that final scene, but the movie is pretty rocking, you know? It still has some good action sequences, where you have the final shootout at the end, you have the opening shootouts, and those are the best action set pieces. Or even the funny bit with the rocket launcher when at one of the associates when they're trying to jump from roof to roof. So, there's still some fun bits in the movie. Now, this Punisher, Ray Stevenson, some people criticize the late Ray Stevenson's Punisher for not really talking a lot, but now, some people treat that as if he never talks the whole movie. No, he does actually talk, alright? He talks. He still talks in the film, like, he says lots of dialogue. The problem is, the thing is that this Punisher's not trying to be a talker. This Punisher's meant to be one of the more intimidating portrayals of him, and I feel they captured that well. You know, this Punisher's like a somewhat more gruff, serious character. That's what they're trying to portray here. So he still has dialogue. So I don't know what people are talking about with that problem. This Punisher still talks. He only talks when he needs to, alright? He doesn't have to talk during the fucking action scenes, alright? If he talked during the action scenes, then it would not be that epic. Then it wouldn't be an action scene in the first place. What's next? Do we always need, it's not like, what's next now? Do we need to have like RoboCop talk during him killing bad guys for 20 minutes? No. So give me a break with that. Alright, so now we get on with the finale of the movie. So, Castle enters through a second floor window, and he ends up having a firefight with all the hired guns from Jigsaw. And pretty much, this is an epic scene where either he's shooting a few of them, he sees one guy sitting in a chair, and punches him in the face, and blows his face up, or pretty much blows up a whole room full of them. Like, and you have like this whole epic metal song playing in the background throughout this whole shootout. Like, this is an epic final shootout. Then Castle engages with Looney Bin Jim, and pretty much though, like, at first he gains the upper hand a bit, but he's like tackles Frank and bites him in the neck, but he realizes he probably isn't going to survive the brawl, so Jim cowardly flees, but Castle chases confronts both him and Jigsaw, and they're holding both Micro and the family hostage at gunpoint in the spa room. So this scene does kind of feel a little reminiscent of Batman Forever, with that bit where the Riddler's making Batman choose between either saving Nicole Kidman's character or saving Robin. Where here, Jigsaw gives Punisher a choice. He either has to save Micro or he has to save the family. If he chooses to let one of them die, the other goes free. And of course, like, he doesn't want to choose either of them, so they decide they'll kill both of them, but Micro stops and demands that Castle choose the family because one of them is a kid. And so he offers his life to save the girl there. So that's one of the things that makes Micro a very loyal ally to the Punisher. He knows which one's the worth saving over him. So Castle's like, you won't feel a thing. And so, like, at first it looks like he's going to shoot Micro, but he secretly shoots Looney Bin Jim instead. So Jigsaw ends up killing Micro. And both of them are raged at each other. Jigsaw at Castle killing his brother, and Castle at Jigsaw for killing Micro. So Castle attacks Jigsaw, sets the family free first, and then pretty much engages them in hand-to-hand combat. And then he pretty much then quickly impales him with a metal rod, and pretty much when he's looking at him with the blood coming out of his mouth, let me put you out of my misery. And he pushes him into a fire pit brazier. As he burns to death, like, Castle just stands there above the flames like, this is just the beginning. And I really love that whole shot right there where he's just standing over the flames as if Jigsaw's already burning in hell. It kind of feels like the Punisher's taking Jigsaw to hell. Like, or he's throwing him into the pit of hell, and he's pretty much looking down on the eternal flames he's about to go into. And so, after Jigsaw and Looney Bin Jim and the whole gang are all defeated and killed, he goes outside, and Angela forgives Castle and points out her husband once vouched for him as one of the good guys, and him and Bayansky depart on good terms, and he departs the Donatelli family. And you can see Donatelli's daughter. It's kind of sad to see Frank Castle leave and waves goodbye to him. And like pretty much the comic relief cop offers to buy Castle a drink, so they leave together. And as they're walking, it's like, you must get tired of this. Maybe you should try give it up being the Punisher. I mean, you must have got all the bad guys. But then Castle clearly senses there's obviously another one lurking around somewhere just by the alley they're walking through, and he just magically disappears, and the comic relief cop's like, where did he go? And he walks downstairs, and one mugger's like, give me your fucking money. Frank, do I look like I'm fucking around? And pretty much then, that's when the comic relief cop changes his mind. And pretty much then, Castle stands behind him, right below the church sign. And then pretty much points his gun at the mugger. And then off screen, and when the screen fades to black, you see the Punisher skull logo. As you hear the gunshot and blood splatters on the cop off screen, it's like, God damn, now I got blood all over me. And that's how Warzone ends. It's like, it seems like with the way they ended, maybe they wanted to do more, but you know how it went. It didn't do well in production. It didn't do well with people. It viciously did bad in theaters when it came out. It got ripped to shreds by the whole world. So yeah, it did not get any more. And also because now we definitely won't be getting more of this because Ray Stevenson is no longer with us, sadly. May he rest in peace because he is also a pretty terrific Punisher. He did reprise a role again in a show, in a cartoon show, that is, though. So this would not be the last time he'd play the character. And also, Thomas Jane would reprise a role from his version in a short called Dirty Laundry, which is a short worth checking out. And another thing about that short, it also stars Ron Perlman. So that's a short, the closest thing you'd get to a Punisher and Hellboy crossover. And another thing, Ron Perlman also was the villain in Blade 2. So there is that. These two would play the Punisher again in another project. So these movies wouldn't be the only time they play them. But this was the last we did see. Until the Punisher went back to Marvel and he would appear in the Daredevil show and his own show. And the sad thing is, his own show only lasted 2 seasons. And it sucks it got canceled after season 2. No, I think the Punisher should have had a third and final more season. Seriously, it sucks. Because I actually like the spin-off show. I haven't seen the Daredevil show, but I have seen the Punisher show, and I fucking loved it. That to me has the better Jigsaw. The better Billy. Alright, so now do I have any bad qualities with Punisher Warzone? Yeah, I do. The villain Jigsaw in this movie, now he's better in the Netflix series like I said, but this version, I don't like him. No. This Jigsaw feels way too damn over the top. And I'm sorry, Dominic Choice was the wrong choice for the role. Dominic West was the wrong choice for the role. And if they wanted to, if they were trying to make this Jigsaw over the top, then they should have got Dolph Lundgren to play him. Because Dolph Lundgren knows how to make over the top evil characters, like with Rocky IV. And you know, and also would have been kind of more ironic because he did play the Punisher in the 1989 film. So I feel that's what they should have got to play Jigsaw instead if they wanted to do an over-the-top 80s style approach. Dominic Choice was just a horrible choice for the role. Looney Bin Jim, useless character, and he died anticlimactically too. And also I don't like I don't like the actor who plays him. Person-wise. And I didn't like they killed off Microchip, because to me that kind of does hurt the final act. Because this character only appeared in like 4 scenes in the movie. And then they basically kill him in the final act, so that kind of sucks. And also this did have a bit of a bad production, so there is that. But other than those, I have fun watching Punisher Warzone, and I recommend it to those that want the gory Punisher. So in the end, I would definitely say Punisher Warzone is worth watching and buying for the Marvel collection if you want the gory Punisher that you didn't really see in the 2004 movie. Anyways, that's it for my review of Punisher Warzone. If we're going to grade Punisher Warzone, here's how I'm going to rank this movie. So overall, if you want to see the more gorier, brutaler Punisher in this movie, you'll probably get that in this movie for sure. So I would definitely recommend watching and buying Punisher Warzone for your collection for sure, no doubt. If we're going to grade Punisher Warzone, I'm going to give Punisher Warzone a 7.5 out of 10. Alright, there we go, guys. That wraps up my review for the Punisher Warzone, and that takes care of both the Punisher movies, so alright, we can put you back, and you know what? We're going to do 2 more Marvel movies that we still haven't reviewed yet. So, first off, Daredevil Director's Cut, and then Hulk 2003. We'll do those next. We still haven't reviewed those movies. Until then, now I want to know in the comments down below what you guys think about Punisher Warzone, whether you're one of the few people that actually likes this movie, or whether you're one of the many that doesn't. And until then, that will be it for this review. Thank you all for watching. If you like this one, see more, and don't forget to subscribe to Don G. Corleone.